logging onto your servers over there in the home state of Kentucky. Those backwoods. What's the mountain range there?
The Appalachians.
No, there's something else.
Smokies.
Those
That's
are
in
Tennessee,
Tennessee.
though, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the Appalachians. We have them.
We got the Appalachian Hillbillies here. And we're on. Welcome, YouTube, to the Appalachian Hillbilly channel. Otherwise known as BUB'S Comics. You're joining us for the No Faces comic chat. We got a few people in the chat already. I want to thank them. And first, I'll introduce to my left, maybe, however the screen works, the best in the business at doing his business. We got Roger. Say hi, Roger.
Greetings, everyone. Good to be here.
Lovely. So good to have you. And I'm sorry to inform you all, but DS Comics is still at the hog calling contest at an undisclosed state. Oh, he's back.
I'm here.
So with us, as almost always, is DS Comics. Say hello.
What's up, everyone? Roger, I missed you, man. Good to see you. And hi, Bub.
We missed you a lot. Well, I missed you. I'm assuming Bub missed you.
No, he doesn't miss me.
But, I missed you. I missed you terribly. It's almost as terrible as when you're on. So.
Almost. Well, I'm back tonight. I'll tell you, last week I missed that chat, but I was listening in as, you saw me chatting in the chat there. But man, I picked the wrong one to go out of town for and miss, because that was a phenomenal chat. It covered some really good stuff. So hopefully we can cover those topics again, because I have a lot to talk about on them. Some knowledge, some issues I've had with books. So yeah, it was really, really good stuff last week, guys.
Well, I tell you, I have to say that my little secret is that anytime one of you is going to be not on the show, I make sure to pick a topic that you'll both be upset that you missed. That way it encourages you not to leave again. So there you go. Now I already had that topic.
You do a good job of giving us the the high hard one, so that when we come back it's like, oh man, what did I miss? Don't do that again. I understand your tactics, Bub.
Yeah, a little bit of chin music. That's what I like. So we got Mr. Gretzky 9966 in the chat saying, hey. We got From Heroes to Icons, just waiting. Hopefully we're here now. We got Comic Geek Madi saying, hey guys, what a great show he gave us a couple weeks ago, huh? Great to have him on.
Fabulous.
That was a really good one. I really enjoyed that. And we got Area 51 Mike in the house saying good day. We got the Comic Collector saying sup. We got Silver Age Day saying hello YouTube. He's been waiting to say that. Oh, yeah, he's been off the air for a little while. I kind of miss my Friday lunch pops, as he calls them. He drinks a Bud Light and talks about comics every Friday afternoon, or he was there for a while. Then it was Mondays, and it was kind of bouncing around, and I guess he's busy right now. We got Rayman, the Silencer Man, saying, hey, everybody. Mr. Gretzky, we got him. Oh, we got Metarog shouting everybody out. And who knows if we have him. We got DS Comics, of course. So good to have you guys. Thank you all. Let's see what else we got. I think that's all we got. So so we're in good shape. I want to thank you all for being with us. And tonight's name of our chat was a really, really simple one. So I'm sure both of my co-hosts can remember what the name of the chat was tonight. So what do you guys got?
Was it the Old Fogey Titans or the non-teen Titans or something?
Post-apocalyptic Teen Titans or something like that?
Yeah, post-apocalyptic Titans.
Thank you for that. Yeah, close enough. Glad to have you. And
post-teen Titans.
The post-teen Titans, yeah. And then my son.
Got it. Post-teen. Got it. Good one.
Post-teen for me and Roger is decades, but Bub's one of those youngins, so it's post-teen.
Days. It's days for him. It's decades for us.
This is the only place I ever go and get called a youngin'. It's kind of nice.
Well, when you turn 30, or when you're 29 and you turn 30, that is when people feel the oldest. They're like, oh my God, I'm so old. Once you hit 40, you don't feel old anymore. And then when you get into your 40s, like you realize you actually are living in a younger frame of mind than people who are 29 and 30 because they're freaking out that they're getting old. So
that's true to a good extent. But once you hit 50, then you're like, you start getting those physical manifestations of old age. And then that's when reality really starts hitting you right around there.
All right. So I'm in a good spot then. I'm older than Bub, but younger than you. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you're not much older than me, but you're quite a bit younger than Roger. That helps. That helps at all.
Probably true.
That's probably true.
Probably
the way I always looked at it, and I looked at it as far as dating usually. So the way I looked at it as far as dating was, if there was ever a chance that the two of you went to the same school at the same time, then it was probably okay. So that puts you in somewhere around a 4-year age gap, you know? And I think that is a negligible amount. If you could ever been in the same school at the same time. So 4 years, give or take, for either one of you, I think that's pretty negligible amount of age difference. That's the way I've always looked at it.
We're more than 4 years apart between all of us, I think.
Yes.
Are we?
Oh, yes.
Probably.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I'm 43.
You are at least 10 years younger than I am, both of you. So,
yeah. I'm 38.
Yeah,
you're 43, so you got 5 years on me, DS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Roger's got 10 on DS.
30 years on you and 40 years on me.
Now, if we're talking maturity, we could fudge the numbers, but biologically,
I'm pretty sure we need to replace some of Roger's staples here soon.
There's no doubts about that. Mine have rusted 2-3 times already.
It would be completely opposite if we had the time travel, because Bub would be 21 and Roger, you would be like, 25 to 30, and I'd be 5. So
we're probably never going to exist, because when DS goes back to the age of 5, he's going to rewrite history. That's when he's decided to blow the world up. It's when he was 5.
It's the butterfly effect.
Oh gosh, let's
it.
not do this again.
No, we're not doing that again. Let's talk about comic books. What was our topic? I don't remember that, but I do remember the post-Teen Titans title.
I appreciate that. The topic is there an end game to your collection? Wink, wink, right? For the movie out there, which I'm going to declare a no spoiler zone on this. On the chat, if y'all don't care, there's still some people who are waking up from a social media coma, self-induced social media coma. So we'll try and keep the spoilers out of here. Although I just had this conversation earlier today. And because in a lot of the Facebook groups, they're starting to run polls like, okay, how long do we have to be spoiler free? And my feeling is that once you go past opening weekend and you're on social media, there's a fair chance that you're going to see some things you don't want to. So that's you enter at your own risk generally. But I heard some other people say that movie theaters are still sold out till like Thursday. So, if that's the case and you haven't had a chance to see it, then, I feel sorry for you.
My standard is when it comes out on your on-demand where you can rent it, not to buy it. When it's rentable for like $5.99 or $7.99 on demand, then fine, because almost everybody who hasn't seen it will rent it by then, and that will be just me, essentially, because I have not seen it. I don't plan on going to the theater. I don't plan on buying it when I can buy it on demand. But when it becomes rentable, I will rent it and then I will watch it. And I have yet to see any spoilers. I stay off social media except for YouTube, but I haven't watched hardly any videos this week because I don't want to see any spoilers. I don't know anything about the movie. I don't want any spoilers. I don't know who's in it. I mean, I can guess, but I don't even want to know anything. So
that's fair.
I will be one of the last in the community to see it for sure.
We'll keep this as a spoiler-free zone, so hopefully ask the cooperation of everybody in the chat. So
I definitely want it spoiler-free because I hope to see it tomorrow with my daughter. So nice. I like DS. I've stayed off social media. I don't know too much about. I've seen a few comic books thrown around that, of course, in my mind, I have already plotted out the whole movie, but I know I'm going to be wrong. So yeah, tomorrow is hopefully my endgame day.
Nice. We saw it opening night. We got tickets a couple weeks ago, and we saw it opening night on Thursday night, and we got these cute little cup toppers or whatever. They were part of a big giant cup, and it was pretty cool. So I enjoyed that. And the popcorn was great. So that's the only spoilers I'll give you.
It's interesting though that people rush out to pay. Like, I don't know how much, Bub, it cost you. I'm sure you spent at least $50 that night to go see that movie with the popcorn and
with popcorn and
the
stuff.
tickets. At least $50. People have no problem doing that in our community, but then when there's a hot book, it's like split. People are like, man, I'm not paying for that book now. It's too high. I'll wait and get it in the dollar bin next year or in a couple months. I'm one of those people too. I think you should just wait and get it cheaper. But some people rush out. Like that Thor 390, I guess, is a hot book related to this movie somehow. Right. And that's selling for like crazy money. It was a $1 book last year. And, there's people rushing out to buy that and paying an exorbitant price for what was a $1 book a month ago. And half the people think that's crazy and they're going to wait and they might pick it up for $1 later. But when it comes to the movies, 95% of everybody goes out and pays the exorbitant price right off the bat when it's hot, which is the movie. I'm the opposite. I just wait until it's cheap. I'll wait till Thor 390 is cheap and get it for $1. I'll wait till the movie's cheap and get it for $5. But I'm in the minority when it comes to the movie, so I really have to stay off of social media pretty good or I get spoiled.
Well, similarly, too, if you go the day after the movie back to the movie theater, there's plenty of still passable popcorn in the trash bins.
Oh, man.
So if you're just not one that needs it fresh.
Are you that guy I saw on Discovery Channel, Extreme Cheapskates?
I've seen that.
That's what he did. He got, there was free refills. He got one of the bins from the trash, cleaned it out, and gave it to his wife full of popcorn.
There's a whole culture of people. It's like a club, and they try to eat by spending less than $5 a year, and they will dumpster dive and get handouts, and they'll go an entire year and spend virtually no money on food. And they have picnics where these little clubs get together, and they have, they cook dinners and they have side dishes and entrees, and they have like a whole picnic with all food that they dug out of the trash and that was discarded. It's like a whole club of people, and they spend no money on food. It's just all leftover trash, discarded stuff from wherever. So
I think I've been to family reunions like that.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck is this?
I mean, if you're really hard up, I can see you having to, go to those levels, but come on, I mean.
Yeah, I think it started just somebody wanted to see if it could be done, and a couple other people joined in, and then it became like a sort of a recycling efficiency, not spending money and contributing to pollution and all the good earth type philosophies. And it's become fairly popular. There's some documentaries about it, and that's cheaper than I will even go. I'll just own one pair of pants, as you guys know, so that I have more money for comics, but I'm not going to dumpster dive for food. That's where I draw the line.
Yeah, I'm with
that's
you.
A good place.
I mean, I'll do stuff like I'll use my boxes. Some of my long boxes are 30 years old, because they look awful, but they still function. I'll just repair them, right? But dumpster diving for food, I kind of draw the line there. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, your long boxes look awesome. They have a lot of character. I love when I see photos on Instagram of people finding collections, and their long boxes are all taped together and they're yellowed, and that's awesome. I love seeing long boxes like that.
Oh yeah. Mine's got major character. Mine are Mel Brooks. Mine are Mel Brooks. Long boxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
they go on forever.
That's hilarious. I'm glad you're enjoying your dirty longers. That's great. So I have to say that the topic of tonight was inspired by one of Roger's videos. So every now and then I try and catch at least one of Roger's videos a week. Takes me about all week to watch it. And then so then I try and catch one next week. So the one that I caught today was I think he was doing one for a comic appreciation video or contest or whatever. And it was about, as we see this topic come up a lot, as what started you collecting, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of got me thinking, and it was a great video. And I suggest after the chat, if anyone has an extra 45 to an hour to spend, go watch that video.
It was 20 minutes tops. Okay.
Yes, it's the best hour I've ever spent for 20 minutes.
And you see
people like the long videos. I like long
anyway, videos. So for you, it's like 10 seconds.
I like the long videos too, but
I like something to play for an hour while I do comic processing, shipping, packing, reading, whatever.
That works. Yeah, I did a lot of that. I rebagged and boarded about a quarter of my collection on Saturday. So that took all day. And so I watched all the longest YouTube videos I could find, like 38 minutes plus, and I'd press play. I watched replayed live streams, which I rarely get to do because they tend to go on an hour, like this probably will. So,
certainly.
All right. So the question for tonight is: there an end game to your collection? What keeps you collecting? So Roger talked in his video about what started him collecting, but I want to know what keeps you collecting, and will you ever stop? And that doesn't mean in the sense like, no, I'm never gonna stop, but realistically, what do you think that there is a point that you would stop collecting, and why? So since Roger, started off this great topic and with his video that he aired earlier today, why doesn't DS go ahead and start for us?
All right.
I'm sweating bullets back here.
He likes to pull that switcheroo.
I haven't done that to him in a while, so I owed him one at least.
Man.
Yeah, I think I don't know that there's an end game, but I think of different stages and goals aside beyond like I want to complete this set or I want to get this want list for the year. Like long-term goals, I would like to have 100 comics that average $1,000 value each, and that'll be 100,000. And at that point, I've considered, if I'm able to get that money out of them, at that point, if it doesn't crash or whatever, assume these things are still worth money down the road. If I can able to have a collection of 100 that are worth that, I've thought that's enough to liquidate and do something with that money, like, get some real estate or, do some other type of investing or, sell all that and get like a gigantic book, like, I don't know, whatever, Captain America 1 or something, and see if we can profit off of that, or just to do something else that's really life-changing. Am I going to do that? I don't know. I've never had that much value. But that's something I think of, like if I had enough to sell all of them to, buy a house or something, that's a really cool thing to think of. And, I might do that. But further down the line, at some point, I've been thinking I probably won't keep these until the day I die. I will probably wait until, I'm much older than I am now, and I will probably either give them to my kids when we have kids, or just sell them off and use that money in retirement for maybe take some trips or do something else with the money, and maybe sell them to some younger collectors who are going to have the passion that I have when I'm, now that I'm younger. And so, yeah, I think, I don't know, there's a lot of possibilities if you can build up a collection that has a lot of value. And at a certain point, I'll still love comics, but I may trim my collection down and just try to get some major stuff or just like a couple huge things and move on to something else. But that's just something I'm considering. But the way I think of it now, I love these things too much. I can't even imagine selling them off. So my frame of mind would have to change at that point for that to happen. Because if I was at that stage today, there's no chance I'd be selling them. So just some thoughts that rattle around in my head about a possible, quote, end game with my collection. So that's what I think about it.
That's pretty cool. What are some of the things that you do in your current collecting that kind of lead you down that path already?
Well, as you know, I've trimmed my collection down significantly. I used to have thousands of books. Now I've actually got boxes that are empty because I don't have enough comics to even fill them. So I've only got a few hundred books at this point. I used to have thousands. So I've trimmed way down, and I try to keep my collection dense, which means, and it's not specifically tailored to value, but the bigger books are obviously worth more. So I try to have a dense collection where I have fewer books that are worth a lot more per. So, I'm trying to just have all the major grails in the areas that I'm passionate about, and anything else is expendable. So I, routinely go through my collection to find books that I can sell, and I'll sell 5 or 10 books over whatever period of time, and I'll put that towards one new book. So it's almost like a 10-to-1 exchange for me. But I'm at the point now, I don't even have 10 to sell. So when I eventually do have 10 that I've fallen out of love with or not quite as important, or, you know, I've picked up some books to flip, golden age type stuff, I'll sell 10 and I'll go pick up one bigger one. And I'm doing pretty well. I mean, on the pre-code horror list, I've got, you know, like 8 of my top 10 on my list. Everybody's pre-code horror list is different, but I've been pretty successful picking up big books. But I sold thousands of superhero books and put that money towards this stuff. So that's, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's sort of what I do currently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like really the first step has already been taken quite a while ago to trim down, and now it's a matter of building back up to what you want, as opposed to, you know, doing a book by book trade. Because it's interesting to me that you sold so many books, and yet like there are still some pretty big books on your list that I mean that I know that you want. Then, and it would seem like, man, if I sold that many books, I feel like I would have, I'm not saying more big books than you've got, because some of those big books are pretty big, but it would seem like I wouldn't want to let go of the book that I have until I knew I could have the other book in hand. Like that's one of the things that I struggle with is there's a book I really want, but unless I know for sure that I'm going to have that book in my hand, I have a hard time letting go of some of the smaller books that I already have in order to get it.
Yeah, but if, all right, I collect golden age stuff, which is far more rare than any of the silver age, bronze, copper, etc. And except for upgrades, I don't like to get rid of a lower one until I've scored the upgrade, because a lot of things happen and you might not get the upgrade for some reason, then you don't have the book at all. But if it's just a book you want, suppose you want, you know, an ASM 1 that you don't have and it's expensive, you can sell a bunch of books and just keep just racking up the money and saving and hustling and flipping and just get enough and just focus and just go after that. But that requires you to not do the 2 steps forward, 1 step back, like save some money and then go to the LCS on Wednesday and then buy stuff on YouTube auction and then all this other stuff. If you're going to do that and you're going to sell off books that you like, that are decent, that you really are considering, well, maybe I don't want to get rid of these, but I would for that. If you're going to take that plunge, you've got to commit. You got to sell them. You got to keep that money, not touch it. You got to flip some other stuff. You got to save, and you got to be disciplined and committed and go after it. You can't go down that path halfway. You're either doing it or you're not, because what will happen is you'll get rid of books you want. You'll never get that grail, and you'll have a bunch of books from the LCS from, you know, New Comic Book Day and you know, smaller auction stuff, and you're just screwing yourself. It's hard to do. It's hard to take that commitment, but I've found if you can do it, once you can sell some of those big books, when you finally are able to complete a path and get the big book, you realize it works. It's worth it. I don't make more money than anybody else on here. I'm an average Joe, but I pick up big books because I don't buy little ones anymore. If you're going to take that plunge, you've got to commit 100%, and you really got to go for it. And it's very tough because there's so much stuff you see you want to buy, and that just eats away at your ability to get something big.
Makes sense. Definitely. So if you're going to be going after a tight collection of 1,000 or 100 books that are worth $1,000 each, does that mean that when you hit that and you feel like you've got the books, what do? You just stop?
No, I mean, the point where I would be like, all right, what do I do next would be, I made a list of the top 100 pre-code horror books, and I'm trying to work essentially from the top down, but they're rare enough that I'm weighted towards the top, and I'll pass on the bottom 50, but I'll pick up stuff in the top 25 if they come around. I don't specifically go in order because you don't know when these are going to come up. Some of them are pretty rare, and you know, when I have those 100 that are worth that, you know, I'll go through and finish my pre-code horror list of my top 100. When I have all those and my collecting value goals, I don't know, that will be a time when I'll think, because there's some major golden age books I want that are really rare and really expensive, like a Suspense 3. I think the going rate on a 1.0 is like 25 grand.
Wow.
Now I have books, I could sell 25 grand worth of books. And, you know, the other problem is locating one of those for sale, but I'm not at the point now where I want to liquidate 25 grand worth of books to get a Suspense 3. But if I completed my collecting goals, yeah, I could see doing that for sure. I could sell, you know, a good chunk of books off of my completed pre-code horror collection and move on to some bigger, different sort of goals. Because I noticed when I bought the Hulk 181, I was so focused on that, and that was all I thought about. And I got a 181 and an 8.5 last year. And once I got it, there was a sense of accomplishment and completion to it that I completely lost interest in having it after I got it. Now, that's probably unusual. Most people will get a book like that would keep it, but it was the challenge of getting it. And once I had it, you know, the price went up and I was able to double my money on it. And yeah, I mean, it was the challenge of getting it. So I think the challenge of getting all these things, I'll cherry pick some of the ones that I absolutely just love. But, you know, the three I'm showing here, I love these three. I could see moving these at some point if I've completed my first stage of collecting goals, to move these to get some other bigger Golden Age stuff. You know, some early adventure comics, some early Lou Fine stuff that I'd like to get. Some really early, like, Major Schomburg's, like the Suspense 3. So yeah, I would do that when I get my collecting goals finished.
That's cool. It's funny that you mentioned, you know, kind of getting hot and cold on stuff after you've bought it. To me, that always seems like a recipe for, like, leaving a lot of heartbroken women out there, you know, like the hunt is like almost like being a womanizer. You're like a comicizer or something, you know, you're going after, it's all about the thrill of the hunt. And as soon as you get her, you're like, I'm over her. What's next? You know, you throw her aside and you go get something new.
Yeah, and that's also why, and I'll finish here, and then we can hear from Roger too. But that's also why I collect things I like that are also good investments. If it's something I like and it's not a good investment, I will not buy it, pretty much as a rule, and there's exceptions to every rule. But I don't just buy what I like, because there's so much stuff I like that a lot of it's good investments and a lot of it's not. I'll just stick to the good investment stuff, because everybody's tastes change over time and everybody's likes change over time. And picking up a book that you love now, you might not love it in 5 years. And if you're only buying stuff that you like that's also good investments, you at least can make a profit off the stuff when you don't like it anymore. If you're just buying stuff you only like, that's not a good investment at all. You're going to be stuck with a bunch of stuff you don't like that's not worth anything. So at least I like to have the stuff that I'm stuck with that I don't like anymore still be worth something. Yeah, it's kind of, I don't think that even makes sense the way I said it.
Roger's head just spun around backwards.
It makes perfect business sense for certainly. So I applaud that, sure.
But I've yet to find certain stuff like that I constantly like over time, always. My tastes are ever evolving and ever changing. So I want to at least be sure that the stuff I fall out of favor with, I'm going to be able to turn for a profit. And sometimes it happens in a month and sometimes it happens in 3 years. But I never always like the same stuff.
That's fair. I think it's hard to say that any of our tastes really stay cemented in one place. I almost don't think I would want it to. I think I like it that it changes so much, and I also like that I don't know what's going to change it. You know, all of a sudden I see a book that I never knew about and I never heard of before, and I'm like, oh, I want that so bad, and I was lusting over some other book, and I totally give up on that. Usually because there's similar price range, you know. So if it's a $5 book, I'm not going to lose my interest in a $5 book just because I find another $5 book. But if it's like a $600 or $700 book and there's another $600 or $700 book that I feel like I would want much more, then I almost completely forget about the one I wanted real bad before and focus on the new one. So I can see that. Changes a lot. Well, Roger, what do you think?
Well, before I get into that, let's look at the chat, because it'll start getting away from us. And some guys came in here since we shouted them out. My brother from Miami-Dade, Hialeah Comic Bro, is here. He just got back from Denver.
What's up, bro?
Vacation. Good to have you back, buddy. Silver Age Dave is in here. Did you say, was he in here when you shouted him out?
Yeah, I think so.
He had a funny little quip here when we were talking about cheapskate stuff. He says, "I love finding bliss sticks in the back of the bus."
That is nice.
That you know, I kind of draw the line there myself. But you know, Dave, you know, that's how I can afford all those comics. You know,
Nice.
Biggie Shack is in the house. He said he's just popping by to support us. Thank you. We appreciate that, buddy. AG Surfer's here. He was saying that Endgame is epic, but he's not putting any spoilers. And I told him I'm going tomorrow, and he's like, "Hey, don't think too much." And I was like, "That's my problem. I think too much." Discovery Bay, we have been discovered, folks. We are on the map. How you doing, JV? Honored to have you here, considering how that you pop into almost everybody. Surly Tim is joining us.
Nice.
In his Fun Bunker. I love that name, Surly Tim's Fun Bunker. And he's got that really cool intro with that hippie that nice poppy music. That's like, I can't get it out of my head when I see his videos. My brother, Comic Head 84, Kenny, is in the house. He just hit 500 subs. Congratulations, buddy. And this Thursday, we're doing Graders Notes. We're going to be having a great old time on our stream on Thursday. Let's see who else is in here. I think I saw somebody else. Maybe not.
Biggie Shaq, you had him, right?
Had Biggie Shaq. Oh, yeah, Gretzky's been here. Of course, he's a big time supporter of our chat. Thank you so much for always stopping. Chris Lackey is here. Oh my gosh!
Oh wow!
The incredible man from Indiana is here.
Nice.
And Jason from Heroes Icons. I think you already shouted him out. So
yeah. And I was just going to say, while we're talking about that I think it was Mr. Gretzky was already, or actually Comic Collector also was talking about how close they were to their end game. And so if you have a chance to scroll through the chat there, he had said that his end game was, of his collection, was that he wants to get an action. I would assume Action 1, right? Fantastic Four 1, I would assume. Incredible Hulk 1, probably Batman, I guess 1, Detective Comics. What's the detective? Is it 28 or what's the
27?
Yeah,
27.
It's in the 20s. It's in the 20s. Who knows?
Amazing Spider-Man, I assume 1, right? And Superman Volume 2, Superman, Man of Steel, and then he's gonna stop.
Where are you getting that from? Is that in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Posted at 6:21 about 8 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So what's interesting to me is that to have an exact book list is very interesting as an end game, because that is almost scary. Because it really, every time, it's like marking days in the calendar, you're going to be that much closer to the true final collection. That's wild.
Yeah, but that's what he's saying today. Then when he gets all those, you go down rabbit holes, and that's what I'm going to talk about in a minute. You get everything you think you want, and then you're like, well, but I really like this one, so let me explore some of the peripheral issues around it. And you can get dragged into a huge collection that way too, unless you're saying to yourself, this is it, this is the four corners of what I'm collecting, and there's nothing that's going to move me. But comic collectors are generally not wired that way. They're generally like they have a goal, but it's a soft goal, and then they like you were saying, Bub, like you think you have a set goal, and then you see something, you're like, man, that is really cool, and so you want to explore that avenue. The new books, we expand, we evolve in our collection, if nothing else, and that's a very tough thing to just keep it set into a set pattern. Almost everybody I've talked to has not stuck to their guns that way.
Yeah, well,
very tough. I think I do a really good job of sticking to my plan, and even then I deviate, and it's impossible. But if you shoot for perfection and you fall short, it's still pretty good.
Oh yeah, certainly. And that list he has is, of course, just atomic bombs. He's after there. So.
Yeah, that's true.
I think I'm going to throw this out there for everybody who's watching now or will or whatever. All of the Silver Age keys, AF-15 and down, everything is attainable for everybody in the YouTube community. Anybody in the YouTube community here is able to get any of those books. Those are not beyond any of us. The only time I think it's beyond us is you get to like an Action 1, a Tech 27. That's another level. But, AF-15 and below, all of that is attainable. I hear people say, oh, AF-15, I'll never get that. That's my dream book. That's attainable, man. I mean, anybody can get one of those. You just can't get it next week. But if you put a plan in place and you work it, you can do it. I really believe that. I mean, it can be done. I mean, I've got the AF-15 of Pre-Code Horror in a 7.0, and that's like, a huge book. And I could sell that and get an AF-15 in 2.0 probably. And, I have a regular day job. I'm telling you, it can be done. So try it, and you'll be able to succeed at getting this if you commit to it. You got to commit, and you got to cut the fat off the bone, cut out the small stuff, put a plan in place, flip some books, save some money, put the time in, and have a plan that goes forward for an amount of time where you'll be able to score one. It's doable. Look at Alex the Comics Hoarder, just scored a FF1, and this is what he did. And he's been working the system for quite a few months or a year, and he just did a video where he showed his Fantastic Four #1, and he's got like a 1.8. It looks great.
Yeah. He had a AF-15. He ended up selling it. Yeah. So it's all about what you're at, and he's got it back on his list. He wants another one.
Yeah,
so,
I'm sure he'll get one. I'm sure he will.
I'm sure so too. Yeah,
I'm sure he will. Yeah, no doubt.
I think it's hard to. I know you're saying it's within reach of anyone. I would agree, but for some people it takes a higher level of sacrifice than for others, because maybe the budget's not there or other things are in the way, like silly family and spouses and and that whole buying pants thing. So I mean, it
definitely requires sacrifice. You're not going to be able to do it without sacrificing other stuff. You can't have everything unless you're rich, and most of us aren't.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is that people are like, well, you could buy a car for this, you can buy a house for that. I said, yeah, well, those you can get loans for those things. Last I checked, nobody's handing out comic loans.
Yeah, there are. You can get comic loans. A lot of these, like Comic Connect or Comic Link, or a lot of these major sellers do payment plans. You know what I mean? And if you buy a $10,000 book, if you can save up like $5,000, I know that sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but if you can save up a good chunk of that to put down, and you can make payments on it, you will eventually get that book.
Well, that's like layaway, though, right?
It is, yeah. But I mean, how much of us can write a check for an AF-15? I mean, I can't.
I'm just saying, there's a difference between layaway and a loan. Because when I get a loan, I'm driving out of the dealership in a brand new car. When I get a layaway, I'm putting like a pair of socks, in the back of Kmart for about 7 years.
Yeah, you're not taking home the AF-15 on a payment plan,
right?
I'm not. I don't think it's ever. I mean, for me, it's not a good idea to buy any of these books on credit.
Yeah,
I don't like.
Totally agree with that.
Yeah,
but
if you have to go into debt, I don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. There are other avenues you can save yourself, but if you go into debt, then that could lead you down a really dark place if finances go south. So,
well, look, somebody mentioned flea market in here. Ray. The Silencer.
It's got to be Ray.
if you hit flea markets and out in the wild and are doing that in a committed fashion and finding deals and flipping them, you can generate a lot of extra cash that doesn't come from your quote normal regular life. It's just extra cash coming from nowhere, and you can just generate it from hard work and hunting. And you can do that and add cash. You can also, press and clean your own books, which I'm going to start doing. I've got to save up to even get a press machine, but there's a lot of things you can do in the comic hobby that require time and dedication, and can generate extra cash for a budget. It's not just what comes out of your paycheck. So
yeah, there are other avenues. Definitely, there are definitely other avenues. Caleb. Comic Smurf just found a great deal of Silver Age, big Silver Age lot that his barber told him about, and in there was an FF48, really like VF-ish looks like to me. He didn't say how much, but he says it was a ridiculously cheap price. So you figure maybe $100 or something.
That's cool.
Something like that. I mean, you like DS was saying, if that's not your ultimate goal, but that is the path to the goal, is the fact that you have knowledge, the fact that you have the the spirit of collecting, of knowing about these particular commodities, and they can lead to other bigger grails. And I agree that is a way to go. To me, that is the way to go. I don't put any of my own or my wife's money that we make into the comics. Everything is based on my video game sales, my comic book sales, and some other revenue streams that I have.
So what's your end game, Roger? Where are you at? And why are you still collecting?
Okay, well,
surely you have enough, right?
Hey, hi, Russ. Russ, RLM Comics and Collectibles just got in here in the chat. Yeah, I've been collecting for, by my calculation, somewhere around 45 years. Now, there have been times in there where I didn't collect for a few years. After I got married, we had some financial downturns and things like that. So I probably didn't stop cold turkey, but I would get only like quarter bin stuff, every once in a while, things like that. So yeah, I actually have been thinking about this, and and I was talking to somebody about it recently, and like you, Bub, I think you have a finite amount that you want to have in your collection.
Yeah.
Right? 3,000 comics, if I remember
3,000, yeah, no more than
right.
3,000.
Okay, so all you're doing is you're replacing. If you get something new, you're selling something out, so you keep the number constant. Once you get to that point, I don't think you're there yet, right?
No, but I constantly maneuver because I don't want to be. If I come across a big collection that blows my mind, I want to have room, so I try and keep it between 2 and 3, but not at 3. Like I'm not trying to keep it
at the limit. Right. Okay.
Right.
So yeah. I was thinking about what you were saying and what I was talking about with this gentleman, and I'm kind of at that point now. I don't want my collection to grow numerically much more, because I am getting older, and let me tell you, these things are just really heavy, and besides being heavy, weight wise, they're heavy in another sense, in that I have to insure them. I have to curate them, and that takes effort, time, and I'm not decrepit by any means, but still in all, I realize that there has to be an end game to me, right? So actually my plan is not all that different from a lot of what DS mentioned, right? I'm not at the point of contracting yet, but because I want to finish certain runs, and I want to and I still, I think DS mentioned this before, that I love all my comics. For me to get rid of them is kind of tough, because these have been with me for so long. If you can imagine, some of these have been with me since I was 8. So they're very special to me. As special as a possession could be. Obviously, nowhere near as special as human beings, family, anything like that, but they're special in their own right. So I'm not at the point of contracting yet, but I think that probably within 5 years or so, I'm going to reach my numerical limit, somewhere in the 9,000 to 10,000 range of comics and magazines and assorted materials. And I'm not going to go up from there. What I'll do, if I find something, like you said, Bub, a collection, or some great deal, I will of course get it, and then I will divest myself of some of the other issues if I replace them with those. But probably in the 10 to 15 year range, I don't want to, like DS says, I don't want to pass away with my comics here. I don't want to leave that burden to my daughter or my wife or anything like that. So probably what I will be doing is kind of like that. I will be having to sell them off, or somehow pass them along to somebody who appreciates them, get some money, and just get a few bigger books, because I don't think I can ever go cold turkey. I'm not going to get rid of my 30-cent variant set, for example. That's 186 comics that'll be with me till the day I die. Okay. Well, actually 188 or 189 with the variants. So, and a lot of my variant sets, I'm going to have a heck of a time getting rid of those, because I had such a hard time in the wild finding these over 40 years that they're very special to me. But my main collection, eventually I'm going to have to downsize that and just get maybe 10 to 20 big books. At the end, right at the end, I want to be left with one big long box of my very, very special friends, and that's what I want to go into glory with. Not with the books. They don't go; they stay. I go, hopefully.
How many books do you have right now? What's your estimate on the total number of books you have right now, Roger?
Just a shade over 9,000 is what I have. Again, that's not just comic books. That's I have a lot of magazines, including Game Pro magazines, video game magazines, things of that nature. I have a lot of old comic book price guides, things of that, things like that. So
Yeah.
all materials all together, somewhere just a shade over 9,000.
Yeah, there's quite a few people that have what I consider massive collections, especially the YouTube community. I think of Silver Age Dave. I think of you, Don the Comic Book Junkie. Multi-thousands of books. If I try to imagine if you could pull 1,000 books out of that collection that are worth $5 each, it wouldn't make a huge dent in those collections of these people I'm talking about. But if it were my collection, you could cull out 1,000 books to get $5 off of each, and that's $5,000. You could buy a major book with $5,000. I'm not the kind of guy that likes to. I don't have the space or the mindset to have thousands of books anymore. I got to 3 or 4, and I was overwhelmed. But you can always cull stuff out of your collection to get a bigger book, and then as your books get bigger, the ones you're culling out are now bigger, and they lead to even bigger. So it can be done, and the more books you have, regardless of what kind of books they are, the more books you have, the more potential you have for getting big grails. So I mean, it's money under the mattress whenever somebody decides, like Roger, when you decide you want to go after some of those big books and it's time to trim your collection way down, you'll be able to get some really huge stuff because you can sell off those even at low prices, discount prices, and put together a stack of cash for some major keys.
I just stepping in just for a second, Roger, because I don't know how that works. But when I'm looking at my collection and I'm culling out, getting $5 per book on some of the runs that you have to get up to that 9,000 book mark is not. You're not getting $5 a book out of most of those. Most of those are probably you'd be lucky to get 50 cents for. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not knocking your collection, but you are a completest, and I know what that's like. And when I have I have every volumized copy of Wolverine. I probably couldn't, it's something like 400 books out of my collection is devoted to that at least. I couldn't get 50 cents a book for most of those. I might be able to get 5 books out of there that are worth, $5.
You could easily find 1,000 books in Roger's room worth $5. You could find $5,000 out of 1,000 books that he has. They don't have to be huge books to get $5 out of it. To package them, I mean,
to be worth $5 is one thing. So if you walked into a store and you saw a $5 price tag, that's one thing. But to sell them for that is tough. Yeah. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the book isn't worth $5. What I'm saying is how much does he walk away from after the sale? And I say that it's probably $1 or less for most of that $1,000.
No, I mean he's got. You know how many bronze books he has, and there's
all right, guys. Hold on. Let me part.
But he's not going to put those out. He's not going to sell those.
Let me part you two, so you don't come to blows here. I'm kind of in the middle ground of you two because I'll tell you why. It depends on what method you're using to divest yourself of these comics. If you want to sell them individually, well, yes, you're going to get the potentially more money per issue, but the time and the aggravation you're going to put into it, it's not going to be worth it, right? And conversely, if I sell a whole long box of comics, Bub is absolutely correct. I'm not going to get more than 50 cents per comic, pretty much no matter what I have in here. All right. But if you're smart and you sell them in logical, chunky runs, you can in a sense maximize your profits and not have such a headache and such work ahead of you that you'll be in your hundreds before you actually see any money from this. Like I have, for example, Avengers, the original run from number 63 all the way to almost 380, 390 or something like that. So it's a good, 30-year run of Avengers, right? So if I sold all those at one time, I'm not going to get $5 a book, not even close. But if I broke them up and I said, well, here's the Silver Age chunk, those I might be able to get $5 for, and the Bronze Age might be able to get $2.50 for, and then the Copper Age maybe I'll get 50 cents for. So you see, you're both right and you're both wrong in that sense. It just depends on how you want to go about divesting yourself of those comics.
Yeah, and it depends what books you have, and the more time and effort and creativity you put into selling and marketing and different books being sold different places and in different ways, and you can maximize what you can make off of what you want to sell. But whatever you make off of them, you can put that into books that are just a little bit level higher than the last ones were. Yep. And if you buy ones that are, you know, good investments or high grade raws that you think is a good deal, and you can flip it, and you can, you know, you can essentially generate money out of nothing, even at a small pace. And as you do it, you will get better and better, and you can generate higher and higher percentages. And you can start with small books and you work your way up to flipping, you know, $100 books for 125, 150. Sometimes you hit a home run, you get 300 or 400 out of it. And then you can start, you know, you can buy bigger stuff and flip it. You can flip your way up. And if you have thousands and thousands of books to start with, it's, you know, that's what I started with. And I've worked my way up to what I have now, because all of what I have now came from years ago, you know, probably 4 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago when I started that process to now. It didn't come from my paycheck. It came from the thousands of books I initially had, and they were not worth the books I have now, but I flipped them, you know, flip them down the line each time, generating a little more value at each level. And you can get to a point where you can pick up some bigger books.
Yeah,
it takes commitment, and it takes
a house thing. You know that if you're very smart, very patient, and you have contacts, you can maximize what you have. You absolutely can. And it takes time. You do some of the best jobs of anybody, of course. But
and I wish I had more time to commit to it, because I'm fairly effective at it at this point, but I just don't have the volume turnover to really make it. You know, I can't quit my day job, which is not generating enough money to buy these books anyway, but I need that to live. And, you know, if you can, I'm pretty effective at it, at making decent profits on a lot of books. But it all started with like 4,000 or 5,000, whatever I had of smaller books. And there were a couple bigger ones in there, but I bought some bigger books, and I bought like, you know, some of the good ones I bought were like ASM 252 and ASM 238, ASM 300. Some of those were like, when I bought those before I was on YouTube, those were major scores for me. Those were big grails at that time. And those are cool books. Oh, yeah. And well, after a couple of years of doing other stuff, I went back and revisited that level. And I sold my 300. I sold my 238. I sold the 252s I had. And that generated a big profit, because they had increased in the couple of years that I was working down the thousands of other stuff below it. And then I went back, and that was the low level. And, you know, you just move on that way. But it takes years. It takes commitment. It takes a plan. It's doable, though. But it's hard work, and it takes some commitment, and it takes a lot of sacrifice, because I don't buy books every week. I don't go to the comic store for New Comic Book Day. You know, I don't really buy much or go to too many cons. I don't dig through long boxes too often. So it takes some sacrifice to stay away from the stuff that eats away at the edges of my budget. And I try to just buy stuff to flip in order to get grails. Essentially, that's what my collecting is at this point. I buy flip books or I buy grails, and that's it. So I don't have a lot of pickups, but my collection is very satisfying.
Yeah, we've seen some of your pickups, and they're pretty awesome.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I know most of the people, when I show these stuff on my channels, they're books most people have never seen before. But they're hard to find, and for me, these are major accomplishments. Now, in the world of pre-code horror and Golden Age collectors, my collection is small, and I don't have many huge books. But for pre-code horror, I've got some decent stuff at this point. It's respectable, and it's stuff that some of it I never thought I would ever own, and it just verifies to me that it can work. I don't have anything super huge, but I've got some good horror books.
Well, you've got quality, man. You've got quality books. I mean, you know, the stuff you show, the Chamber of Chills, and you know, those are quality titles that you just don't see everywhere around the corner.
Well, and I'm thinking about selling my Chamber of Chills 19. It's the 6.0 restored.
Yep.
Not because I don't love it, but I only paid $700 for that book, and I think I could probably pull 25 to 3 out of it now. And it's restored anyway, and I would put it back on my list of books to acquire. But that's a huge profit that I can put towards other stuff, and it's a book I love the book, but I don't want to send it in to get the resto removed. I don't want to mess with it, but it's not. I want one that doesn't have glue inside the spine to such a degree that it's restored and So yeah, I've been thinking about moving that book, and I think I can get. That's one I would try to get money out of, and if there were no takers or I couldn't get what I wanted, I would just keep it. It would be like I don't want to sell it type price, but a little bit lower. So
yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing with this Avengers book. Like, it was on my list of books to get, but I never have been a huge fan of it. I just thought, I needed to get some more silver keys in my collection. I've got a lot of bronze. I didn't have a whole lot of silver, so I kind of put the I'm not crazy about selling it price on there and put it for sale. And if somebody takes it from me, then this is the price I'm going to need to, to make me love the money more than the book. Does that make sense?
yeah, that makes perfect sense. And if you look at my eBay listings, you can tell which ones are which for me, because the ones I start at 99-cent auction, whatever it gets, cool. The ones I have at a buy it now price are that. Like, you can buy it at this price, but if you don't, that's fine. I'll keep it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Well, Roger, do you think that is there anything that you're doing currently other than amassing more books to get towards your top number?
Well, I am actually, I used to get, pretty much everything that I didn't really have that was in the era that I collected. Mm-hmm. I would get if it was cheap. Quarter bins and 50-cent bins are where a lot of my collection is built from. That's sort of the bread and butter of my collection. Besides the original comics that I picked up in the 70s, which I paid cover price for. I kind of started slowing down when the cover price hit around 50 to 60 cents, I'd say. Because at that point you put it down $1, you couldn't get 2 comics. I was like, man, they're getting a little too expensive. So I went back to the quarter bins, you know what I mean? Because they were 4 for $1, 5 for $1 there. But what I am really much more focused in my collecting nowadays, as I've been on YouTube, as I've matured, as I see that there has to be, I obviously have a savings account for when I'm no longer, physically, shall we say, able to work, or mentally, or whatever, or spiritually, whatever you want to say. I'm putting money away for that. So is my wife, although she's younger than I am, obviously. So I'm focusing my collection. I am much more honed in on certain runs and certain types of comics that I'm looking for. And I'm not branching out, like nothing in the modern, pretty much nothing in the Copper Age, a few Bronze Age titles that I want to finish off, some in the silver, and then some of the variant promo stuff, and everything else I'm kind of pushing aside unless it's an incredible deal. I'm not actively looking for it. I'm just looking for those specific runs and types of comics that I just mentioned.
That's fair. I think it's been fun to watch your collection grow. I don't know that I've ever really seen it shrink. I think I only get to see it grow. Of course, a lot of us don't go on YouTube to show all the books we're selling. Most people are only showing books that they intend to keep, at least for the interim. I know poor DS, I always worry about him because, I'll get a text at, 1 a.m. and it'll be, hey, check out this book that I think I'm going to get. And then tomorrow it's, hey, I just got this book. I think it's really cool for the following 14 reasons. And then he explains all that, which I really enjoy. And then like 3 days later, I see it on eBay. For sale. And then I get another text. Hey, look what I'm going to get as soon as that other book sells. Like,
what happens where I'm at now is there's books I want for my PC, and then there's books that I'm going to flip, but I still want them. Like, there's certain books that I've never, if this makes sense, like certain books that I've flipped before that I've had it and I've sold it and I'm good. Like ASM 300, I would pick up more of those, but that book's too hot right now anyway. But I've already owned a couple of those and sold them. But there's some other books I really want, which I plan on immediately selling for a profit, but I will at least be able to say I owned it. You know what I mean? So there's sometimes I get excited because I was able to score a book that I've always wanted, like Astonishing Tales 25. I never owned that book, and I recently picked up a copy, and I picked it up specifically to sell it for a profit. So I'm not going to keep it, but I'm really happy I got one. Never had one before, and I was really excited to pick up a copy of that. And I don't plan on keeping it, but it's the same excitement of owning it. It's towards a different purpose, but it's still as exciting to get as any of the books that I keep, if that makes sense.
remember to read the last satire there by George Perez. That's his first work in Marvel Comics.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I'm not going to sell that until I read it. Usually I get stuff like that. I'll read it. I'll enjoy it. I'll check out the art in hand. I've never owned that book. And then, then I'll move it on. But I will always be able to say that I remember I owned that and I enjoyed it. And that will satisfy me for a book that I don't plan on keeping. But it's just as exciting for me to pick that up as it is to pick up books that I'm keeping. So I have books on my list that I want.
Keep it.
I've got like a want list of books that I plan on immediately selling for profit, but it's still a want list that I really want these books.
Yeah.
Cool. As a low grade collector, one of the walls that I hit while doing that is that I'm kind of buying books and flipping books that are in mid grade or low grade or sometimes high grade, I guess any grade for that matter. But the amount of money that I earn on doing that, like the books I'm after, a lot of the books I'm after are like in between the $100 and $200 price range. And like DS likes to say all the time, you can kind of work and save for that kind of money. Most of us can afford to work and save for that kind of money if you make it a priority. So it's hard to sell off a couple of books that I even remotely care about when I know if I just stop buying books for maybe like 3 weeks, then I could go ahead and get the one that I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're looking at books in the $100 to $200 range, anyone, I don't think you need to sell off stuff in your collection. You don't need to make much of a sacrifice other than just save a little bit. And, we have families, we have significant others. You can't just put your whole paycheck towards comics. You got responsibilities. But you can take, $5 or $10 out here and there. And if your goal is to get $150 to buy a book, you can do that. Just save, just squirrel away. You can scrounge around the Walmart parking lot for change, which I have done before. I've yet to break.
Hold on a second.
I'm close.
I didn't hear about that tactic before. That's a new
tactic.
I
mean, if you're at Walmart late at night, just do a lap around just go up and down, do a lap and zigzag in the parking lot, and pick up the change you find. At one time, I found like 90 cents.
Oh my!
Yeah, it's fun. You're getting exercise. You're walking around. Yeah, I pick up loose change all the time, and I store it in a bucket. And the last time I cashed that bucket in, it took a long time to fill it. The last time I cashed it in, it was over $100.
Wow!
So that buys a $100 comic, and that money was free, all found on the ground.
I tell you,
what I'm saying. That's crazy to think about.
I think secretly DS envies those dumpster diving people with the food.
I don't think it's that secret. Wow.
Well, I'll tell you, Mrs. DS likes to eat very well and high quality stuff. She likes very healthy choices, which always costs more to buy healthy food. So we spend a good bit on food. If I was by myself, I would not necessarily dumpster dive, but I would be like George, taking the egg Claire off of the top of the garbage right after it was put in. It was just sort of sitting there. I would consider that.
Episode yesterday.
Wow.
Because while I would be eating that, I would be thinking, here's $3 that I can put towards comics and not lunch now.
Wow.
Hey, okay. In the chat, we're getting all kinds of good stuff. All right. Luther Manning says, sell your plasma.
Oh, that's a good idea.
He says that he knew people who did that for beer money in college. Oh, Bad Dad has good advice. For spare change, go to the outside of fast food drive-through windows.
Oh, that's good too.
Hey, I like that one. Don't get run over, but proceed cautiously.
Tat Comic says he looks in his couch for loose change.
Nice.
And Alex says, Alex the comic corner says, I knew a dude that went to the sperm bank as often as he could. That guy probably has hundreds of kids. Oh my!
Another thing,
you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome.
Another thing that works, believe it or not, is if you can have a yard sale, but that takes a bit of an effort. But you can have a yard sale and just put a bunch of stuff that's junk to you. Other people will buy it because there's people out there that don't collect comics. They collect what we consider junk. It's not junk to them. Just like comics would be junk to them. The stuff that we think is junk, they specifically get up every Saturday to go hit garage sales and yard sales and buy stuff, and you can make some money off that. But you can put random stuff on eBay or Etsy or whatever, and people will buy it. Stuff that you think is worthless, that's just sitting in a corner. There's somebody out there that might want it, and you can get rid of a lot of stuff and make a few bucks. And if you're looking at books for between 100 and 200, man, it's not hard to put together $100 just from basically doing nothing.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
You got to get creative, and you got to set aside, like, you have to not worry what people think of you. Like, I'll walk up and down the parking lot at Walmart and look for change. So what? Yeah, it gets me 90 cents. I do that, after a year, you have $100 in change. It's worth it, man.
Oh, wow.
I love it. Wow. Well, as for me, I'll just go real quick. For me, like Roger said, I have a 3,000 book limit that I try and stick under, so the end game can't be much more than that. And the reason for that is that's how many books my lateral file cabinet my custom lateral file cabinet holds. So, and I don't want to grow out of that cabinet, or a cabinet just like it if this one breaks under the pressure, if this one can't hack it. So kind of what I'm doing is I just got a press myself last week, and I've been pressing books, but for my own collection. I haven't sold anything that I've pressed yet. But I'm just kind of improving as a low grade collector. Man, some of these books that I have in my collection, I'm bumping up the grade like 2-3 points by pressing them. It's crazy. Some of them really rough shape, and I've got the pressing down in a short amount of time pretty well, really. I don't even worry. I pressed my Marvel Spotlight 5 yesterday perfectly and didn't bother me at all. Like, I'm not even scared to press a book at this point.
Nice.
So it's working out good. So my goal is to my short-term goal is to reinvest in the collection that I already have by upgrading the value of each comic, putting them all in Mylar, nice new boards, and having them kind of, dress to impress, if you will. I'd like to take my current collection and dress them up and have them nice. And if anybody ever walked in and said, wow. And I like the idea of if I ever needed to sell like 20 comics out of my collection, they're already in nice Mylar and boards, and there's some automatic value built into that. And then, maybe if there's a particularly wrinkled one, I press that. That's free, and just have them be sell worthy, if you will. And, my end result goal is that, like I told, I tell my wife this all the time because I don't want her to forget it. Right. So I repeat it constantly. But like, if anything happens to me, I want her to be able to have someone walk in here, go through one short box of my collection, any short box in my collection, and make an offer for the whole thing and say, I'll take them all. How much? Because I want any particular 100 books in my collection to be representative of the value of the rest of the collection. So that's kind of my goal overall for my collection. And then in the end game goal, I'd like to have one really nice run that is in the highest grade that I can get, if that makes sense, of that run, all slabbed, with a second set of some form of reader. Does that make sense?
Yeah, what run are you talking about, though? Just randomly, you're saying?
I mean, right now, I've gone back and forth on what that run should be, because I want it to be less than 100 books in the run to kind of keep it, to keep it intact. I'd still like to have the rest of my books and the keys and everything like that, but I'd like one really nice run that represented me as a collector, and everyone said, wow, that's an awesome run. That way, if you're a collector of that run, then you'd go crazy over this collection, kind of try to breed some jealousy amongst collectors, right? But I think for right now, I think I've picked the run as Planet Comics as a Golden Age run.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Because I don't want to do a silver run because they're way too long. Most of the Silver Age runs are just forever long, and they're nothing. There's filler books even in Silver Age. Bronze Age, I love collecting the keys and I like collecting first appearances. But some of those runs get pretty long too. I like the Bronze Age though because there's a lot of short runs. But you're not going to have 50 books of keys in a row. You're just not going to have it. So if you're looking for something like that, I think you got to go to the Golden Age in order to get a short run, and by that I mean anything under 100, that every book has value.
Yeah, I'll tell you though, you're just entering into these Golden Age runs, and they look sweet because a lot of them are like 6 books or 10 books or 20, and it's Planet's a long run and it's 73 only. But it's phenomenally difficult. I gave up on it. I got one complete and I stopped. It's killer, dude, because they're so hard to find and they're so expensive, and it's just, man, if you get that Planet run complete, you'd be the only person I ever knew that has a complete Planet run, because that's an insane run to have a complete one of, especially when you get into the early Rivet issues, which I think is like the first 22.
Yeah, I haven't even seen
some
one
of those you don't even see.
Yeah, I haven't even seen one for sale yet. That was.
You can see there was a restored number 1 and 2. I think the same seller had it. They were like, I don't know, they were like VG or Fine graded restored 1 and 2, and he wanted 6,000 on each one, and they're not there anymore. So I think somebody bought them, but those are restored 1 and 2 and the major Golden Age Grails. I completed that run of the Thing, the pre-code horror of the Thing. Man, that exhausted me as a collector. And then I was working on a Chamber of Chills run, and I gave that up. I'm just keeping the ones I like, and I'm not working on any more runs. Now, there's some sets I want, like LB Cole Shark covers. That's a different animal altogether. But Golden Age runs, they seem really attainable, and they're really awesome. And if you can get one, major props. But, man, that's nothing more frustrating than trying to put together a run of a Golden Age where it's killer, man.
But isn't that kind of the point? I mean, if it was a simple goal, if it was a simple goal that I could attain in the next 5 years, well, hell, I don't want to stop collecting in 5 years.
Yeah, there's even limits. I even have limits on the amount of sacrifice and time and commitment I want to make to a particular run or collecting goal too. And that's, I sacrifice so much other stuff to get that Thing run complete that I'm not willing to even sacrifice that anymore for a run of Golden Age title. So I even my sacrifice has limits for that. So I just cherry pick Golden Age books I like now.
Well, I guess I'll just quit.
No, don't quit. I want to see you do it. No. I'm just telling you, don't get discouraged. But it's killer, dude. If you could put together a Planet run, that would be major accomplishment for any level of collecting.
Well, those early ones are the killers. The pre what is it? The pre-riveted?
Well, the first 22 have like the title where it says Planet, and then comics is under, but it says Planet. The word Planet has like block letters that look like they're riveted.
Yeah,
right. That's
like
the one.
Because they're early 40.
There's like
I think the first 22 issues. I think 23 is the first non-rivet. So among Planet collectors or Golden Age collectors, the rivet issues are the most sought after. They're the early ones. They're the hardest to find.
They are.
They have the coolest art. Some of the artists only worked on some of the rivet ones, and they don't appear in the later ones.
Yeah,
I had I think 18 or 19 I had before I sold my Golden Age stuff, and like Bub, I was like, oh, this is cool. I never saw another one, never in the wild. So I just forget it.
Yeah, I mean they'll come up, but it's tough. I mean I've thought about doing that at one point too, and I just decided to cherry pick some of the Planet Comics issues I liked. And even still, this was a couple of years ago, I got into Planet Comics. And I would consider myself a big fan of Planet Comics. I have one issue. Now, it's a good one. It's a top-notch, non-rivet cover, very sought after, hard to find. And I got 4.5 white pages. That was a major accomplishment. And that's the only Planet title or issue I have. It's a lot of them are easy to find, and then some are just ball-bustingly hard.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the idea. The idea is that with a goal that kind of lofty and yet possible, it's going to take a little bit of luck. It's going to take some fluid cash flow, in order to be able to pounce on a book as soon as I see it, right? Especially the harder ones. And it's going to take some hard work to get that run. So I'm willing to devote, 15 or 20 years of my life to getting that run. I ought to be able to do it.
Yeah, and I'm excited for you. I think it's awesome. I'm not trying to discourage you. I've been sending you links, and I've been researching for you to find stuff for you. And I've probably sent you 5 listings in different places for you to look at already since you started that.
And you know what? I've been the top bidder on everything you've ever sent me for at least some amount of time. Like I'm not because I'm not letting anything go. Anything that has a buy it now best offer available, I make an offer, even if it's ridiculously low, and sometimes the sellers don't even respond. Sometimes they'll come back, I'll take $5 off, and I'm like, well, we're still $200 apart, so it doesn't always work, but eventually, I'll pick up a few here and there as I go along. And if I stick to that and keep the rest of my comic budget more or less growing and ready to pounce on a book when I see it like at a con, and I'm like, well, that's it. This is the book I'm buying.
Yeah.
And I usually go to a con and I buy like 50 or 60 books. Now I'm going to go to a con and buy one. So
yeah, I think you could do it. I lowball. Speaking of making offers on best offers, especially on eBay, I make lowball offers left and right. I have no problem doing that. I know a lot of people sort of look down on people that are always making lowball offers. eBay is the Wild West. I don't really care. I lowball offer stuff left and right all day, and I'm probably 1 out of 40 or 50. I get it, and I just made a lowball offer on an ASM 238 first Hobgoblin, tattoos intact, newsstand, only pressable defects. I think it can get to a 9.4, and I lowballed offered on that, and he accepted it within 15 minutes. So I paid and I got it. But
nice.
the other 39 that I did just got no response or auto declined or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, I lowball offer all the time. Sometimes you hit.
I like those auto declines. Those get me excited. I don't know if y'all do much of that, but DS, I'm sure you're aware. But generally, when someone has an auto decline set, they also have an auto accept set.
Acceptance. Yep.
So, and you usually have only a limited number on those auto declines. You'll have like 5 or 6 available to you. So I inch them up and I move and I try and think what that magic number is and I try to hit it. And I usually can hit the number right below it, and then the next number is it. So it takes me about 3 or 4 bids, best offers to hit the mark, if it's something I'm willing to pay that for. So I like those auto declines because that means there's an auto accept in my feature. If
here's the dot.
Right price.
Yeah, nice. You can triangulate it. You can triangulate the
yeah, I do. I zero it down.
Yep. Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah, here's the 238 I got that I lowballed offered, and I looked at the seller's other items, and he looks like he just buys storage lockers or whatever. He does not mainly comics, but I'll tell you, the spine is good on this. It doesn't have a spine roll, but it's sort of like bulged a little. You know what I mean? It could be pressed, but there's nothing wrong with the spine. It's got a little ding up here. The spine is good. It's a newsstand. I checked. The tattoos are intact. Decent corners. I mean, lowball offer on this, accepted, bang, score. So I'm gonna get this pressed and graded and sell it.
Nice.
I'll get a few $100 out of it.
Yeah, that's a hot book. That's a really hot book. I've been looking for a low grade one, and even low grades are ridiculous.
I worry about what pressing does to the tattoos, but I guess whoever gets it in a slab is never gonna open it anyway.
Well, I'll tell you what. My plan is to buy a press in the next 2 weeks. And I'm going to practice, obviously, first. But I have a fantastic 4.267 or whatever, one of those ones with the tattoos I did a video on recently. I'm going to practice on that specifically in advance of this and see what happens to the tattoos. Well, I don't think anything will happen. But
if you put something else, a cardboard of the same thickness as the tattoo, and just do a cutout like a backing board, it should even out the pressure. And
that's what I think. I mean, I can just basically put a piece of paper in there because that goes almost across the top part here.
Right.
It's a big banner.
Back.
It's a big.
There's a tab in the front too, a little tougher, but the back one's a banner that goes almost all the way over. So I can put a piece of paper the same thickness here, like cardstock.
Right.
And in the front, I can do that. It's got a little tab here, like a business card sort of tab, and I can match that too with like cardstock. I don't know. I'm going to try it on the 267, but I haven't pressed before. I don't know if the thickness of it's really going to have any effect. I might just be able to put a sheet of paper over the top of it on both sides, and maybe it'll work. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to look into it. I'll practice on that one. That one I only have as an example of what the tattoos are supposed to look like when they're intact to compare.
Yeah. That makes sense.
It's a good idea. Good idea to have a practice comic for it. But yeah, if you just cut out a reasonably same thickness paper and put it across so that it evens out, it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, but I mean, people get these things pressed all the time and get 9/8 on them.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely doable.
Yeah, it can be done. It's just I think it's a good idea to practice. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I've got a whole stack of. I mean, you guys know why I'm not sending to CGC right now for their pressing, but not going to go into that, but I've got a whole stack of Copper Age stuff that's 9.8 candidates that I can flip, and I'm backed up because I want to do a press on them quick. There's a couple, just to make them perfect, so I can get a bunch of 9.8s on these. And I got a whole stack of them now, and I can't do anything with them right this second. But I'm going to get a practice, and then hopefully I can get to those.
Yeah, I'm always looking for my next book to press. Like I'm looking through my collection all the time, like thinking, what's the next one to slap in there? I named my press Bruce. He looks like a frog. I'm really proud of him. Yep.
Well, you want to see some of the stuff I picked up to flip?
Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Well, we've seen some of it already, but
yeah, I mean, this is a box of like moderns that I buy whenever I find them cheap, and then they're all like 9.8 candidates, and this is my flip package. So I'll get these all graded, and I'll sell them, and I'll probably this stack here is probably, I don't know, $4,000 worth of books if I get 9.8s and 9.6s on them. So I'll show you what I got. I got this ASM 238, obviously newsstand. I've got a really sharp copy of Cap Annual 8, like Zek cover.
Nice.
I've got near mint. This is a 9.8. Probably doesn't even need a press. Newsstand Web 1. Nothing special, but I got it for like, I don't know, $7 or something.
Great Charles Vest cover on that, though.
Yeah. This one is a very high grade. It's not really a key, but it's a sort of a decent book. And this one's I think I showed you guys this before. Just a really sharp X-Men 100 that I got at a good price.
Isn't that the last Jean Grey before she becomes Phoenix?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple Marvel team-ups at one newsstand and one direct edition.
Nice.
Those I picked up for
in the background there.
I got one for 20 and one for 30.
Nice.
Bought this off Gills. I paid up. This is the most expensive one to stack, but I trust him. I know I've dealt with him before, and he said this is a 9.8, probably even without a press. I agree with him. So that's a nice book there. ASM 316.
Is that the first Venom cover?
First Venom cover, yes.
Okay.
Although he's on the cover of 315, but it's in a little circle.
Yeah, it's a little vignette there. Yeah.
This one I've never gotten a 9.8 on, but I think this has a chance.
Terrible.
And it's a newsstand copy, and 9.8s for this go for crazy money because they're so hard to find. I got this really cheap, and the seller, it was sort of not a sketchy seller. I was a little worried. They packed it excellent, and it arrived in great shape. I took a little bit of a chance on the photos, but the price was good, and so that could be. I think that might be a 9.8. It looks like one to me.
Wow,
probably without a press. That one's pretty
sweet. Major score there. Major score.
I got a Moon Knight 8. This is just really hard to find in high grade. I got it cheap as hell, and it's you never see this in high grade, so I'm like, why not?
Is that a Sienkiewicz cover?
I don't know. Take a look at the signature and tell me what you think.
Yeah, that's Sienkiewicz. Yep.
I don't know. I just know it's hard to find in 9.8. So
yeah.
This one you like, Bub?
Yeah, I love that one.
I got this cheap, and it's a 9.8. The spine is perfect. The corners are perfect. Really, really nice book there.
That comic always reminds me of that Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito film Twins.
Yeah, Twins.
Yeah.
Hold 344. Again, these are not like major keys. Some of them are keys, but I mean, they're just cool books that I will be able to sell for 100 to 200 in that range.
Mm-hmm.
I
At 9.8.
got one of the 344s.
These are just a couple from my collection. I may or may not send these in, but these are ones that I've probably owned forever. Sam Keith, Wolverine versus Venom there.
Love that. I
think I bought this last year for like $2 or something. And
Best
then this one
book ever.
I'm the original owner of this. So essentially no cost on it, but it's a 9.8 condition. It's just a cool Omega Red cover.
Is that half Omega Red, half Wolverine? Is that what it?
I think it is. I think the side over here is Wolverine, and this is Omega Red here.
Okay.
Because you can see on the headband, the Omega Red headband is here, and then Wolverine's here.
Cool.
But that's a Jim Lee cover.
That's cool.
Nice.
This one's really not worth anything, but it's a black cover, and it's a 9.8. And I bought this back in the day. Just a cool McFarlane cover with a black cover. Spawn 12. It's fairly early Spawn. So those are nothing special. I've got. I love flipping these books. Secret Wars 8.
Oh yeah, yeah. Deadpool 2323 found about.
Secret Wars 8.
A billion of them.
Jeez, I can't believe that guy.
Secret Wars 8. I've got 3 of them. Another newsstand 141. And then here's a more recent pickup, Eternals 1, which is a modern because it's 1975, I think, 75 or 76.
76, yeah. 76.
Okay, so yeah, this one is really, really sharp copy.
Nice.
I think it's a 9.6, maybe a 9.8, but it is essentially a pretty perfect copy. There's a smallest dent up here on the corner. It's not tore, but it's like crushed, but it's so small that I've seen 9.8s with that before.
Yeah, yep.
And then the only other defect is on the bottom here, just a slightest little fold there. So 9.6, I think for sure, but you might get a 9.8.
By the way, that has great vertical centering, and you have the whole price box, and you have the whole UPC. That rare in that particular issue.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's actually pretty level too. It's a little thinner up here on the black than there, but yeah, it's well centered. A little bit of an overwrap, if you can see that, but it's
again,
not
we've talked about this ad nauseum. The Marvels in this age, to get a perfectly straight spine and vertical centering is mission impossible.
Yeah, so that's a stack I have. I just pick them up when I find them for cheap. I don't know how many's in there, probably 20 books or 17 books or something. But, I'll probably average between 150 and 200 on these when I get them back and sell them. So, $3,000 I think is reasonable. Nice. Maybe 2,500 on these. And I didn't spend anywhere near that on them, obviously, but.
That'd be good. And then next year,
I'm gonna get those Gellum, and that'll be some money for a grail.
You'll be like me looking for books with bad spine rolls you can fix.
Oh, I love books with spine roll because it keeps the spine in good condition with no ticks, and it presses out easy.
Yeah.
I don't press it, but I've had those pressed, and they always come back nice.
Yep. I love it. All right, guys, let's shut it down for this week. We got. I know. It's like banging on the kid's door. All right, go to bed.
And you sneak comics and a flashlight under your comforter.
Oh yeah, I know.
That's what I used to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. All right, guys. Well, I thank you as always for sharing your wisdom and for being part of this chat. It's been a lot of fun tonight. I really enjoy all the different methods that we have for collecting, and I just kind of wanted to know, where's this all going? When's it's got to end somehow. How does it all end, right? Yep. So, and it's interesting to me that we each three have kind of a different approach or a different idea of what it looks like, when our collecting more or less stops, and what our collection looks like on that day, So I think it's really interesting. What a varying. I mean, DS wants 100 comics or less, probably, but 100. Yeah. I'm wanting 3,000, and Roger's wanting 9,000. It's like, like my goodness, you couldn't get more varying than that. So pretty cool. Thank you all to everyone in the chat who's been in here. I know we have several people that have come in there at the end too, and I thank you for all joining us. Catch it on the rewind if you missed any parts of it, and we'll see you next week on No Faces Comic Chat. Why don't we have DS say his goodbye, and then Roger, and then I'll go.
All right. Great show again. Thanks everyone for being here. Do your homework, and see you next week.
Okay, guys. Wow. I mean, let me tell you, great chat today. I mean, we had so much good interaction in there. You guys subbed each other up. You guys are great community members. Thank you for supporting the show. I know I speak for the three of us when we appreciate it to no end, because, otherwise we'd just be talking amongst ourselves. So everybody, thank you for coming. Be blessed and be back.
Thank you. And of course, BUB'S Comics signing off saying, everybody read a comic. And we'll catch you next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. Thank you all for being in the chat and for listening to us Babylon again. Catch you next week.